Are you awake? We all have our theories, and there is plenty of outdated information out there, and some completely bogus, almost myth-like information out there that I still see some of the most veteran players talking about as truth. But I thought with the recent announcement that ship speeds are being worked on in the future, I thought I'd run over the actual facts of the current state of ship speeds, and then move on to what I think needs to be changed to make ships feel more balanced. So I made this cute little scene to help better explain what I'm talking about, and hopefully get my points across a lot easier than using in-game footage or trying to explain it with B-roll. So here we have the three ship types: the galleon, the brigantine, and the sloop. At present, if the wind is directly at your back and your sails are pointed forwards, the galleon will win any race in this environment, closely followed by the brigantine, and then about 20 minutes later the sloop makes an appearance. However, things start to change when crosswind occurs. If the ships are able to fully catch the wind in their sails in this crosswind, it's in fact the brigantine that reigns supreme in this scenario, but honestly not by much. It's barely noticeable in short ranges, but if you sailed across the map, you'd see the brigantine taking a massive lead. And yeah, then the sloop once again makes an appearance about 20 minutes later. But here's where it gets super weird. If the wind is pointing toward your ship and your sails are flat against the oncoming wind, the brigantine and the sloop are much faster than the galleon. In this scenario, it kind of makes sense without making sense. I mean, firstly, with your sails pointing toward oncoming wind, your ship would be going backwards. But let's ignore that for a moment. It makes sense because the galleon is heavier, so obviously needs more wind to push it through the water, and for the longest time it was the sloop that would be the fastest against the wind in this scenario, and would be the main tactic for running from anyone who was pursuing. But then something changed. I cannot remember when this change came into play, but around a year ago, the brigantine suddenly started drinking protein shakes, and for some odd reason is now the fastest ship when sailing into oncoming wind, making the brigantine the most overpowered vessel in the game right now. But wait, it gets weirder. If there is a crosswind, but the ships are not able to take full advantage of the wind by getting full billow on their sails, continuing to point the sails in the correct direction will give both the brigantine and the galleon a speed boost. But once again, the galleon will come out on top in terms of speed, and this is the case no matter how little the angle of the wind becomes. There is a lot of people who refer to a term as dummy sails, and often use it when they have very little wind to capture. I think this is the mindset from solo slooping that I will explain in a moment, but unless the wind is directly pointing toward you on a brigantine or a galleon, you will go slower than taking advantage of whatever direction the wind is going. Even the tiniest bit of left or right wind is an advantage on both ship types. The term dummy sails are kind of pointless. However, even though the sloop still has no chance of catching up in this scenario, if the sloop's sails are pointed directly forwards, if it cannot catch full billow, this is where the term dummy sails comes from, it then becomes almost twice as fast than having the sails turned toward the wind. For this reason, it's very rare that you need to actually turn the sails on a sloop. I have no idea why this is the case, but it's been like that since release. In fact, when I'm playing on the sloop, the only time I ever take advantage of full billow is if I'm chasing someone or racing to a world event before it despawns. 90% of the time on a sloop, I don't move the sails from the position they were when I logged on. Now the problem with all of this is it essentially makes the sloop the slowest and easily picked off target in the game. The sloop does have far superior maneuverability compared to all the other vessels, but then it also has a crew disadvantage. So sailing a sloop is essentially the hardest ship to sail in a fairly matched ship versus ship scenario. I mean, sure, you might have had your fair share of larger ship sinks and ownage, but if you came up against a crew on a larger ship with a similar skill level as you and your buddy, it's game over. So how do we tackle the problem of balancing ship speeds? Do we nerf the ship speed, or perhaps buff a ship speed? Do we increase the damage a ship can take, or add chase cannons or something daft like that? No! The answer to all of those questions is no! 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 Just no. The way to fix the problem with the balance in ship speeds is by changing the world itself, or rather, making the playfield in Sea of Thieves more dynamic. I've always said this, but for a game called Sea of Thieves, they have pretty much nailed the Thieves part, but the sea part really needs some work. The ocean is essentially a car park with nice graphics that does not affect the speed or maneuverability of your ship no matter its class. You can still move as fast, you can still turn as fast in any scenario. So here's how I think it should be done. The sloop, being a smaller vessel, would excel in calm water sailing, whereas a bigger ship like the galleon would suffer greatly, with the brigantine being in second place in this scenario. So let's say in calmer waters, near islands or shipwrecks, the sloop always has the speed advantage. In the wind, out of the wind, it doesn't matter. It always moves fast, with the galleon and the brigantine trying to catch up. In open waters, however, the galleon would excel, but at full speed, the galleon would then suffer from a greatly increased turning debuff, meaning it would have to drastically slow down for any precision plays. The brigantine coming in second place, also with the turning debuff, and the sloop coming in last, but with no turning debuff, meaning it has full maneuverability no matter its speed. In the storm, however, the brigantine reigns supreme, able to skip over the waves and move fastly, closely followed by the sloop, but the galleon coming in the slowest, smashing against every wave that comes in its way. However, the storm increases the galleon's maneuverability, so it's able to be more precise than the other ships. Now, these are just a few ideas that I've thought off the top of my head, and I don't want the comment section to descend into a "this person was wrong on the internet" scenario, which I know is a very much loved agenda on YouTube. I might be wrong in some places with these examples, but my overall point is valid. The game world needs to be more dynamic to allow ship types to have certain advantages or disadvantages at any given moment. The examples I've given might be wrong, they might be right, but the point stands. Making the sea more dynamic and perhaps even having periods of calm seas or more choppy waters in open seas that happen periodically would essentially create a balance within the game for all ship types. We'd no longer have a reasonable meta for a certain ship play. The world itself would become the balance that we need, and it would also remove the tedious meta of people just turning into the wind and waving goodbye. Players would have to think about their chasing or even their running more often, and use the world as their canvas to change out their strategies when playing. Anyway, thanks for listening to my PowerPoint presentation, folks. Don't forget to hit that thumb button and perhaps even hit the sub button if you're nice. But I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, that'll do. I'll see you all next time, guys. Happy sailing and stay safe.
Just go fast!